Hey everybody, clearly not sitting in my tractor for this one. I took the day off. I'm just sitting on the front porch right now. Apparently I forgot to record the first video in the fifth batch here. I don't know how that happened. I have notes on it, but I didn't record. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. My usual spiel. I'm not the only reviewer for Before We Go blog. I'm not cutting any books on my own, just like I'm not moving anything through to semifinalists on my own. This book is called Legacy's Price by T.L. Ralston. It's only a little over 200 pages long. It really felt like Victorian era. Really felt like we were dealing with like the UK, although all of these countries are, and we're in a secondary world. I kind of felt like maybe like late 1800s, early 1900s technology. We have cars, but certainly nothing, more than that. We are dealing with a single point of view character book. Lady Elizabeth is a member of the royal family. Her great grandmother was the queen. Now her grandfather is the king. She gets into a duel pretty early on and ends up displaying like an ancient magic that her family line is supposed to have had, that at some point, like almost mythologically in the past, helped them defeat some sort of great evil. Once she shows this magic, it's obviously quite a shock. As far as this book goes, there's a little bit of contradictions to me here. The women, Lady Elizabeth, she gets into a duel. It appears that women are okay to duel, but when she's getting ready, she comes into like the capital city, and they're just telling her that she needs to get married soon and be a good wife kind of thing. Definitely felt like we had those Elizabethan, Victorian era thoughts on women, but then they can duel. They do get to take their shoes off, but whenever they're called out in a duel, they have to wear whatever they were wearing now. It's mentioned that now, luckily, they're not giant ball gowns that you can at least move around in a little bit. All in all, the writing is just fine. I certainly didn't have an issue with that, but it definitely, kind of felt a little bit funny to me that we're dealing with, like those social mores and then have duels. Really felt like just a secondary world, but like dealing with like the British royal family for sure. This is not one that I have any intentions on moving forward with. If someone else likes it, I'm not going to argue that it needs to get cut, but I don't plan on, continuing on unless it gets nominated as a semifinalist. All right, let's go ahead and get to book number 2 in this batch. I will be in the tractor for that one. All right. Alrighty, the next video in this set is The Dryad's Crown by David Hopkins. This one has a little bit of a fairy tale feel to it, especially when it begins. It is a multi-point of view character book, but our MC is definitely a woman named Silbrey. I guess I'm saying that right, S-I-L-B-R-E-Y. The tale is that she was born as basically a dryad in a tree, but is human in appearance. She's found by a woman who nurses her till she's about 8 months old or a year, and then is found by 4 dryads who happen to have taken her during a time when there's a war between like humans and gnolls and some other goblins and things like that. It's a tale that definitely has some fantastical elements, but for the most part, we're dealing with a main character who, like, we see her as she grows up, becomes a woman. She's first raised by this priest who finds her after the dryads are attacked. The story is that she was a fish. She was fished out of the water. And then became a girl, and she's going to run around through this city, get found by kind of like the warlord lady of the city. She's, think of her as like a mob boss, Priest of Bone style or something like that. She is raised by her. She's trained to be a fighter. She finds this staff like right off the bat that seems to have like magically appeared for her, and she's a great fighter with it. Then she meets a man who she falls in love with, and agrees to leave the city. Basically is told by her adopted mother / mob boss that she can never come back again if she decides to leave. And for a very long time she doesn't, or her husband as well, who she never actually tells about her true past. She has a couple of children, and then her husband will go off to the city. Some bad things will happen, and the story seems to really begin about that point. This is a book that's over 600 pages long, so this first 20% was roughly, 120 pages or so. I really, really enjoyed my first 20% of this book. I liked that fairy tale style feeling to the beginning of it. I like that Silbury, she grows up, she, ends up having kids, but she's not like a good mother necessarily. She doesn't have those motherly instincts, if you will. First, her husband was the one that, had more of the maternal, paternal instincts in his case. And, I just kind of like the feel of the book as it went on. We get a long period of time from when Silbury is supposed to have been, an infant, and then grows up and is, a woman in her 30s at the very least at the time that we hit to that 20%. There was a historical fiction series called Roma. It's got a 3-book series, and I kind of got the same kind of a feel with this book as I did in that one. I'm only 20% in, but I really, really enjoy this book so far. I definitely plan on reading the entire thing, and even if it doesn't end up being a semifinalist for one reason or another, I will certainly finish reading it and do a review on it as well. Once again, The Dryad's Crown by David Hopkins. Let's go ahead and get to the next book in the series, and we're starting to make our way towards the end. Hey everybody, it's Cam with the third book in my group called Elemental by Tam Cronin. The main character is a 9-year-old boy at the start of the book named Agrid. He's like 11 or 12 by the time we get to the end of 20%. But the whole backstory of this one is that 300 years in the past, a group of wizards got together and killed a whole bunch of the gods that ruled everything. Those wizards, when either they die or when the gods died, they gave off their powers to a newborn. It appears that Agrid was one of those. When he is about 9 years old, he is found by another wizard who thinks that he is one of the elementals for the country that he's in. Those elementals are then raised up when they're found and then made the rulers of whatever country they are from. Agrid ends up running when the wizard kills off his family and somehow magically disappears. He's not quite sure how exactly. And then he ends up basically being on the run for most of the rest of the story. He does find someone to take care of him for a while, but then he's eventually forced to run. You know what? I've got to say, this one's YA for sure, but you know what? I kind of really enjoyed this one so far through the first 20%. I liked the lore of it. I think for being a 9-year-old boy, Agrid or however you say it, is a pretty decent character for, a young adult. For basically being a kid when this, is all going on, like basically 9 to 12 is the quick little section of it. He's not like whiny. In fact, he's very, very quiet. I kind of enjoyed it. I don't necessarily know if I will recommend it as a semifinalist, but if someone else does, then I definitely will back that. I'm not 100% certain if I will keep reading right away, but I'll certainly put this on my the back burner as a potential to read in the future. As a general rule, I review more on the grimdark adult side. And even my recent foray into RPG hasn't necessarily been the most fondly taken by my viewers based off of the last the drop in views for the last 6 weeks of putting out the RPG episodes before this. So we'll see how it goes. But if you're looking for something YA or you have some young teens that you think would enjoy it, then I thought this was well written, and I enjoyed the main character for being a kid. All right, let's get on to book number 4. Hey everybody, it's Cam again with the fourth book in this batch. Despite already proving that it's a poor decision to record outside once before, I've decided it's just a little bit too warm today. It's in the high 90s here, and the tractor running is awfully loud, so we're just going to record here in the shade. This fourth book is Rites of Passage by M.D. Presley. It is also the first book that I had already completely read before the competition, so I have read the entire book. You can see a full review of this book in one of my back videos. I gave it a 9 out of 10. I clearly enjoyed it quite a bit. Part of it is Presley's writing style just seems to work really well for me. Enjoyed the book. It is an urban fantasy. Think more like low stakes as opposed to, you know, like really crazy, like lots of gods and things like that. You have humans. There are supposedly some supernatural creatures. We don't actually really see any in this one. It follows a single point of view character named Corbin. He is 19 years old. He's grown up like in a cult basically in Montana. Magic is a real thing for some people. It's generally not like well known throughout, you know, the wider world, but it's not something that is a, you know, total secret. Corbin has the ability to use like a dowsing rod to basically find anything as long as he has, you know, has some sort of element from the person or an object, something like that. He ends up getting found by one group who wants him to find a person in a maze below a house. There's magic is, you have like the big cities are all ruled by one group called the Circle, and then smaller cities and areas are ruled by like groups of families or clans or something like that. Once again, this one as far as urban fantasy goes is not, don't think Paternus or you know, one where you're going to see like a ton of crazy fights or things like that. It's a lot more on like a personal, small level. If that's what you like in an urban fantasy, then, you know, then this is something that you'll enjoy. But if you are looking for something, you know, like where the gods are walking around or you have huge battles or a ton of mythical creatures, and it's probably not quite as much your style. I think that for me, it's the writing style, just whatever it is that Presley does. I just really like that. Get into that movie in my mind really easily. Maybe it's because he's also a screenwriter. Whatever the reason, you know, important to note that just because I really enjoy this book doesn't mean that it's obviously going to be a semifinalist. I have put it forth as a semifinalist since I've read the whole thing and enjoyed it quite a bit. But, you know, someone else from the group is going to have to also enjoy it for that to be the case. So let's go ahead and get this final book, and then we'll get started on the sixth and final batch. Thanks. Hey everybody, it's Cam here with the fifth and final video of this second to last batch with Them Old Bones by Astor Teller. It is kind of felt a little bit fairy tale like. I'm going to be honest, this is one of the more intriguing books of the competition for me. I don't really know what to make of it. It kind of had a fairy tale feel to it. It's definitely fantasy. Our main character, her name is Miriam. She is a bone collector. It seems like bone collectors go out and get haunted bones and you know, help people out. It says right off the bat she's dead. It sounds like maybe she committed suicide or something along those lines. It says she has a gash in her wrist. She says that she's a bone collector to atone for her sins or something along those lines. She goes out and collects a bone basically from a man named Crazy Jones, who has been bewitched by this bone, by the soul, by the haunting, you know, spirit of the bone, and has kind of a crazy little absurd tale. It feels a little bit like Pratchett even to me in terms of just the sheer absurdity of it, but like an appropriate level of absurdity, unlike, you know, one that I read earlier. It's silly and ridiculous, but muted and, you know, understated like it should be. I don't really know what to think about this book at the moment yet, other than to say that I enjoyed reading it so far. It's only 230 pages long, so I definitely plan on finishing it off, and it is certainly a consideration to be in the running for a semi-finalist spot for me. All right, let's go ahead and get this finished off, and we'll head on to the final 5 books of this batch of 30 for me, the first 20%. Thanks.